Yes, indeed. It is another beautiful morning, a beautiful Monday morning right here in the Federal Capital Territory. Welcome to Daybreak, this beautiful morning. I think
What's so beautiful about this morning?
I think it's now longer days, longer nights and shorter days because, recently when you come out around 6:30, it's bright already. But these days, it's really dark.
It's still dark, exactly.
Yes, I'm Darshan Hussein Osman. Thank you so much for joining us. And my co-anchor here,
Abdulaziz, and good morning, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Daybreak on Trust TV. Today is the 9th of January 2023. And of course, the first working days for many people who had long end of the year
holiday,
break. And it's another beginning, and we hope that we all begin on a very fresh and beautiful note.
Yes.
And of course, another important thing to this day is the CBN deadline for the policy on withdrawal limits. so
well, let's see how that goes. If there's going to be a pushback, we'll definitely find out about it. All right, so let's move on to the highlights at this hour. Edo abduction. NRC shuts train station indefinitely.
Hajj 2022 Hajj CSOs back Ganduje seek probe of NACON over finances contract.
Electricity tariff hike. Serap calls for reversal.
Now the details. The Nigerian Railway Corporation on Sunday announced the closure of Ekehen station in Edo State till further notice. The corporation said the decision became necessary following rising security challenges. Government had abducted many passengers from the train station in Iguben local government area of Edo State at the weekend. The victims were waiting to board a train to Warri in Delta State when their attackers struck. The incident came barely 1 year after the March 28th attack by bandits on the Abuja-Kaduna train last year, leading to the death of about 14 passengers while 65 others were abducted. The NRC statement said that Ekehen station has been temporarily closed due to security issues till further notice.
Sad one there. A coalition of civil society organizations have backed the call by the Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje, urging the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the National Assembly to investigate the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria over 2022 Hajj operation finances and contracts. Now, Governor Ganduje made the call in Kano while receiving the 2022 Hajj operations report from the management of Kano Pilgrims Welfare Board, led by the chairman of the board, Professor Abdullahi Pakistan, and Executive Secretary of the board, Abba Dambata. In a statement by the Movement for Greater Nigeria and Good Governance, a coalition of anti-graft organizations signed by its advocacy director Tokumbo Lasisi and communications lead Batul Shahib at the weekend, said the probe is expedient ahead of the 2023 Hajj. The CSOs, however, expressed concern that weeks after Kano Governor's clarion call for the probe of the Hajj agency, the National Assembly is yet to make any move to probe the commission.
Meanwhile, a socio-economic rights and accountability project SERAP wants President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately reverse what it described as unlawful, unjust and unreasonable increase in electricity tariff. In a statement on Sunday, SERAP's Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare wants Buhari to ensure investigation of the spending of public funds as investments and bailouts by successive governments to electricity distribution companies, DISCOs, and generating companies since 2005, and prosecution of cases of corruption and mismanagement. Following reported approval by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC electricity tariffs were increased across DISCOs in the country in December last year. Several prepaid customers have reportedly confirmed the increase, but the Minister of Power and NERC have refused to confirm or deny the increase.
All right, with that, we've come to the end of highlights at this hour. Then we'll move on to more stories. Some residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have decried the slow pace of distribution of PVCs at INEC collection centers in the metropolis. Trust TV's Beatrice Kuruti, who visited some PVC collection centers, reports that the cards are unavailable for collection while some centers are understaffed.
There is a rush here for the collection of PVCs in one of the many INEC voters cards collection centers in Maiduguri. The weekend exercise in some of these centers witnessed a low turnout, while some who came to claim theirs were unable to collect them and fear that they may be disenfranchised in the coming elections. We came to collect our PVC and they told us to return after a week, and it's the second time we have been given this excuse. They are supposed to have produced all the PVCs so that everyone will get his or her own, because when the collection closes now, many people will not get theirs.
Well, so far here it is not so congested, but I don't know about other centers. But I saw the previous election to be much more tense than this one. We are much relaxed here, and there's no more tension to be scared of coming out to vote. I think it's going to be okay here if all things continue the way we are seeing now.
Most of the people that we did together with them, and most of the people that even faced them, their own have already come out then. And we even asked them, but up to now still no response. Instead of us, they should respond in a polite way. So most of them, they used to be quarreling and be responding so harsh for us. Instead of them, because this is our right, and we're the citizen of Nigeria here, we have the right to vote and everything then. But up to now, we haven't seen any single of that.
I come in early in the morning, 11. Nobody opened this place. That's why after praying, I came here again and collected.
They also feel that the deadline for the collection of the PVCs should be extended.
They're supposed to be about 5 or 6. This is about 60-something units in the same place. Thousands of people may come. Only 2 people are checking this thing. This is not fair. There is enough funds that was given to INEC. I believe they can recruit more people to make life easy.
How many persons is he going to start? It's only one person that was working inside that place. But what about the rest? That's those challenges. Can you be able to give one person, even that person is sometimes the work that he was doing, he can be able to be tired ahead of it. But at least he have need an assistant. But please, we need our PVC. Let them give us 120 vote.
I think if people are not able to access it, I would advise that the extension should be granted for the masses to have access to it, since it is a very important.
So far, more than 25,753 cards have been collected out of the 132,750 new PVCs received on Friday. With the collection of the PVCs billed to last for 2 weeks, some residents who couldn't get theirs are hoping that INEC will extend its collection deadline.
Still on the PVC collection, prospective voters in Rigasa Ward, Igabi local government area of Kaduna State, have lamented the slow pace of distribution of permanent voters card at the ward level. While monitoring the exercise in Kaduna metropolis during the weekend, the residents also entertained fear that the exercise may elapse without many collecting their PVCs due to last-minute turnout of would-be voters. The report.
The distribution of PVC is ongoing at what level across Kaduna State, with people trooping to the collection center to get their PVC. At the collection center at Tudunwada in Kaduna South local government area, residents come to collect their PVC ahead of January 22nd deadline.
The situation is very hot. People are plenty. Some people have not yet gotten their cards. But most of the people coming are getting their cards, alhamdulillah.
Going by the number we have distributed yesterday compared to what we are distributing at the local government level, there's a difference. Even I can say it double our turnout. Like yesterday we have distributed over 1,200 plus, unlike when we are distributing it at the local government office.
At the Rigasa ward in Igabi local government areas, people turn out for their PVC.
People are just getting to know about the exercise. But from today, inshallah, we expect the large turnout of course, will-be registrants to collect their PVCs in the centers that I have mentioned.
Some of the mistakes, some of the mistakes in the voters' card are maybe the pictures, and maybe that is from our people that captured the person, the owner of the card. That is the reason why, I think that's the reason why you will find out that the picture is not maybe half of his body, half of his face, the other face is not there.
Rigasa Ward has more than 150 polling units with tenders set aside by INEC for the distribution of the PVC. Some are entertaining fear that the time may elapse, with many not able to collect their PVCs due to slow pace of the exercise.
Sincerely speaking, I expected an easier strategy of distribution of this PVC in such a way that people will get their PVC in an easier way than the arrangement already made. So I'm suggesting of an easier way of distribution of the PVC by taking the PVC to village heads, that is Meanguas, so that people will easily get their PVC.
I am appealing to INEC to decentralize the distribution of the PVC to polling units so that people can get their PVC within the stipulated tenders. I came here early in the morning, but up to now, I didn't collect my PVC because the arrangement of collecting the card here is tedious. The exercise will last for 10 days at ward level. Bella Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Well, different states seem to be, going through different, different. It's the same, somehow different. Some are saying that the collection hasn't even started. Some are actually saying that there are long queues, and they end up spending hours before collecting their PVCs. Different experiences, but hopefully they'll be able to collect it in time to exercise their franchise. Exactly,
yes. Because in many places there have been these complaints that in some wards actually they are yet to start even the distribution, and as you have seen in some other places it is even the enthusiasm and all that, and we hope, as you said, that the process will be smooth and people will get to exercise their franchise to vote. Yes, indeed. All right, so moving on to more stories. Amid the dwindling economy and high rate of unemployment that has become the major contributing factor to insecurity in the country, the Adamawa state government says it will, or it has lifted over 20,000 youths and women out of poverty. The head of Poverty Alleviation and Wealth Creation Agency in the state, Aishatu Bello Bawa, disclosed this in an interview with Trust TV in Yola. Silas Lawang reports.
Aishatu Bello Bawa noted that the agency's interventions are in the areas of training for starters, giving technical support to business owners and entrepreneurs, as well as dishing out social welfare packages to those in dire need.
We thank God for the life of Right Honorable Ahmadu Umar Fintri. It's not an exaggeration. We have approval and releases over 4.4 billion naira from 2019 to date on empowerment issues. And also this year, in the budget of 2023, we have 2.445 billion has been approved for empowerment. So we consider youths, women and vulnerable groups.
Bawa said the agency's skills acquisition centers will give priority to the 2,700 students that were already receiving various skills at the centers, adding that the opportunities will thereafter be open to fresh beneficiaries in order to reduce poverty in the state.
In 2023, we intend to redouble our efforts to ensure that we have value for the little resources. Despite the financial fragility of the state, we ensure to double our efforts to see how we can make youths and women to have viable trades, the vulnerable group that cannot attend trade, we can see how we can have social support services for them.
Stakeholders say the opening of the skills acquisition centers, which were long neglected across the state, will boost the state government drive toward the eradication of poverty and creation of wealth in the state. From Yola, Salis Lawan, Trust TV News.
Yam farmers in Niger State have lamented fall in the price of yam since the beginning of harvest season this year. Our reporter in the state says farmers are attributing the fall to insecurity and other challenges. The report.
Shiroro, Paikoro, and Munya local government areas are among the major yam producers in the state. A check at yam markets in Kuta, Mutunde, and Paiko in above local government areas shows significant fall in the price of yam. Farmers say the current price is not commensurate with the prices they bought inputs such as fertilizer and chemicals during the planting season. According to them, insecurity is the major cause of the fall in the price of yams, as traders who normally come from Lagos and other parts of the country have stopped due to persistent abduction by bandits. Honestly speaking, the price of yam has come down seriously. Before, we were selling this yam at the cost of 110,000 naira, but it is now 55,000 naira. Traders that used to come from other places to buy our farm produce are no longer coming because of insecurity in Shiro local government. If we will be allowed to stay peacefully in our villages, even government doesn't help us, we will fend for ourselves. Traders and truck drivers say they are also affected. They call on the government to intensify efforts in the fight against banditry that has ravaged many farming communities in the state. The price of yam is not stable. If there are buyers, the price goes up. And if buyers are not on ground, the price goes down. Buyers no longer coming like before. Sometimes we are in the market and bandits will be coming. Everybody will have to abandon his goods and run, causing us losses.
Muna zaman lafiya zaka loda mota 10-20 amma yanzu mota biyu da kyar za a load.
When there was peace, we used to load 10 trucks or 20 trucks of yam in a market day, but you hardly load 2 now. It is affecting us because unless traders come to buy, we will not have anything to load.
Suna ganin haka saboda barayin nan mutum zai zo da kudin sa a dauke shi a rike kudin sa a ya nemi kansa da kyar ya rasa, shine yasa suka deciding gwanda su gudu wani waje. Yanzu dai mu sun ban mu ga kaya ba mu da masaya saboda wannan harkar barayi.
Niger State is one of the major yam producing states in Nigeria, but attacks on farming communities and abduction of traders have crippled the production of the commodity in the state. Abubakar Akote, Trust TV News, Mina.
Well, insecurity has, been an issue for a while, especially when it comes to food security in Nigeria. Hopefully, okay.
And for me, the interesting or perhaps a different twist to this issue is what we are seeing in Nigeria. Whereas we are perceiving, high increase in prices of food because of insecurity, because farmers are unable to farm. Now here they are having, prices fall because people are not going to buy from them as they are used to.
They're selling at a loss then.
Exactly, it means so. That's what I'm saying is that it's another twist, another loss because of insecurity. They now have to sell because people are not willing to travel over there and buy from them.
So they have to reduce the prices. Sad. Really sad indeed. All right, and with that, we've come to the end of the stories at this hour. We'll take a quick breather, and when we return, it'll be time for the newspaper review. Stick around.
find that if you look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak on Trust TV, and it's time for the newspaper review at this moment. And we'll begin by relaying headlines from our major stories from Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story here talks about insecurity festers despite Buhari's December deadline. We have riders that say 671 killed, 1,321 kidnapped since ultimatum. We have Southeast records highest killings of policemen, attacks reduce in Kaduna, others, and experts harp on intelligence gathering, community policing. And you can find details of that story on page 4. There's also an infograph of the killings, total casualties, kidnappings from September to December 2022. All right, moving to the top of the page there, we have Tinubu, Atiku, Obi's campaigns based on irrelevant issues, says report. Zenith, GTB suspends international transactions on Naira ATM cards. Details can be found on page 23. Media Trust appoints Gwedebe Sadiq to head Hausa Service Investigations Desk. We also have on the footnote there, Edo train attack. Ex-police officer, nursing mother, 3 others rescued. Writers here says 32 abducted, 1 escapes, suspect arrested, and train service won't be disrupted, says NRC. And these are some of the stories on Daily Trust, a newspaper.
Up next is the Leadership newspaper, where the lead story also is on insecurity. Insecurity, DHQ mom as military fails to meet FG's December deadline. And experts loud troops say government made political statement. 19 wanted terrorists still at large. Trial of Boko Haram suspect resumes March. And then at the top of the page, oil farms face capital challenges as clean energy funding hits $580 billion. And on the blue strip there, FG shuts down Edo train station over abduction of 30 passengers. And by the left side of the paper, elections will hold in all 774 LGS, INEC declares. Details of that story can be read on page 4. Next to it, Tony Elumelu Foundation appoints Somachi Chris Asoluka as CEO. And lastly, Atiku in UK on British government's invitation, according to the campaign council. So these are details of the stories. Before I said call it a day on the Leadership newspaper this morning, let's go back up. There are 2 more stories. To the right, fuel subsidy will go immediately, says Obi. Details of that on page 6. And then to the left, Tinubu to Nigerians, I will honor all campaign promises. Details on that also on page 6. So these are stories on the front page of Leadership newspaper this morning.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the Guardian newspaper. And we have the big story that talks about search ongoing for 31 abductees in Edo State train station attack. We have writers here that says 1 victim escaped, suspect nabbed, undergoing interrogation. Police vigilante hunters pursue armed kidnappers. Edo Deputy Governor Shaibu visits scene. Presidency, Atiku Okowa, others condemn attack. Now, at the top of the page there, reverse unlawful electricity tariff hike. Serap urges Buhari. We have Atiku's aide denies ill health rumors. Details on page 3. Ignore propaganda. LP on ground in North. Spokesperson assures Nigerians why some Southeast politicians, businessmen are opposing Obi by Obidigbo. And on the footnotes there, Sanwo-Olu urges Nigerians to shun evil predictions ahead of general elections. You can find details of that on page 5. And don't take consumers for granted. Energy experts charge discos. These are some of the stories on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
Now to the Nation newspaper. At the top of the page, security spreads nets to rescue 31 train travelers in Edo. Details on that on page 5. Next to it, Rivers bars Atiku's campaign from public schools. PDP candidate in UK. Details on page 4 and 5. And business review for 2023 can be read on page 13. And someone Olu to Nigerians shun evil predictions. The rest to Aso Villa, also on page 2. And CBN cash withdrawal limit policy goes into effect. And on the red strip there, thugs attack Oshun APC campaign office. And new COVID-19 cases reported in Lagos, Edo. And the big headline, Tinubu, I will be fair to all tribes. And the story has riders. APC candidate unstoppable, says Kwara Governor Ganduje. He is a product of unity. And at the very bottom of the page, NDLEA intercepts drugs consignment in wooden statue. And Chris Azoluka is TEF's CEO. And that's the last story on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to the next paper, which is Vanguard newspaper. And, okay, well, let's take a look at Punch first. All right, soldiers, police, vigilantes track abductors. 31 passengers missing. That's on Edo train attack. We have riders that says railway workers, non-passengers, South residents among abductees, says NRC bus official. 2 underage victims rescued, suspect arrested as FG Obaseki condemned kidnapping. We also have at the top of the page there, or below that lead story, there's a pictorial there of Armed Forces Remembrance in Borno, Enugu, Ogun, and Abuja, and governors seek support for fallen soldiers' families. We also have below that story, Jakpa, more youth sell assets, seek fortunes abroad. Call for missing baby, probe rises, government mom. Details on pages 4 and 5. And we have forex allocation to telecom sector drops. At the top of the page there, electricity consumers demand new tariff reversal. Federal government pays 4.12 trillion naira interests on CBN loan, and agents protest as customs hike imported vehicle duty. You can read more on that story on page 30. And just beside the nameplates there, on raids, Air Chief regrets civilian casualties, orders probe. And these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper.
And then up to the This Day newspaper. Now next is Business Day newspaper, and on the Business Day, the front page is saying Nigeria's yawning deficit signals further breach of CBN Act, and that's the big story on the front page today. And on top of the page, 10 biggest stockbrokers by value in 2022, and to the left of that is a pictorial showing Emir of Bichi Nasiru Ado Bayero, President Muhammadu Buhari, and Peter Mba, Chief Executive Officer, Pinnacle Oil and Gas Limited, during Pinnacle's thank you visit to the President at the State House on the recent inauguration of $1 billion intake and offtake terminal at the Lekki Free Trade Zone. And coming down to the left side of the big story, Nigeria is Nigeria's debt pile takes toll on fragile earnings. That's on page 29. And with nothing to show, Nigeria's money printing spree backfires. On page 29 also. And then cash outside banks dropped by 640 million in 1 month. And Tony Elumelu Foundation appoints Chris Asoluka as new CEO. And these are details on the front page of Business Day this morning.
And finally, we have Vanguard newspaper, and the big story here is on 2023 outlook, saying economy will rebound with credible polls, says bank CEOs. We have writers here that says election outcome to determine investor confidence, forex inflow, others. Economy will experience some growth, new opportunities, says UBA CEO. Forex flows will benefit from post-election relief, says Sterling Bank CEO. And innovation in the digital payment space will continue, says EcoBank CEO. Now, we have more stories at top of the page. We have trial of Boko Haram suspects in detention to resume March, says federal government. Details on page 7. On Edo train kidnap, terrorists struck because there's no security in the station, says witnesses. We have electricity. TCN boosts wheeling capacity to 8,100 megawatts. TEF announces Somachi Chris Asoluka as a CEO. And we have more stories on lifestyle, adjusted lifestyles that helped Nigerians survive 2022. And on the polls, we must halt Nigeria's downward spiral to abyss, says Nwosu. This is on politics. On health, Nigeria records 189 Lassa fever deaths, says NCDC. And in sports, Carabao Cup, it will be war, says Iheanacho warns Newcastle United. And these are the stories on Vanguard newspaper.
Well, the last paper we'll be looking at this morning is This Day newspaper, and at the very top of the page, it has a story that says banks only authorized to dispense new banknotes via ATMs. CBN clarifies, says no going back on January 31 deadline to phase out old 200 naira, 500 naira, and 1,000 naira notes. And Partners National Orientation Agency Markets Association on aggressive awareness on naira redesign. And on the black, on the black strip, next, below that, Obi replies Tinubu, says no one has ever accused him of corruption. Details on that on page 21, on page 41. And below the masthead, Edo government rejects Tinubu's stereotyping of state youth as Yahoo fraudsters. Details on that on page 12. And 32 passengers kidnapped by AK-47 wielding gunmen in Edo train station attack. And this story has some riders. One regained freedom, several injured as deputy governor visits scene. FG condemns incident, says security agencies making efforts to rescue victims. Atiku expresses concern, insists presidential election is all about salvaging Nigeria. And the big headline, the lead story says INEC releases final list of presidential National Assembly candidates for polls. And Akpabio Nwaboshi Machina make list. 4,223 candidates contesting for 469 federal legislative positions. Lastly, 48 million out of 93.5 million eligible voters are youth, Commission reveals. So this is details of the front, on the front page of This Day newspaper this morning.
All right, so yes, right now, since we're done with the newspaper reading out the stories, we'd like to introduce our guest in the studio. He's the analyst for today on this segment, Dr. Lanre Oluwani. He's a public affairs analyst, and he joins us, to review some of these stories. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And Happy New Year to you.
Same to you guys.
All right, so let's begin with the lead story on Daily Trust, the newspaper, and it talks about insecurity festering despite Buhari's December deadline. And there's an infographic here that talks about 85% of deaths, being from the north, 15% of deaths being from the south, and Benue recorded highest casualty, states with the least casualty figures with 1 death each. And we also have still in the infographic of a total of 1,321 people kidnapped, 15% from the south and 85% from the north. Now, let's have your take on, this particular story.
Yeah, thank you for having me once again. It's not only Daily Trust that put in insecurity story this morning. It's virtually all the newspapers. So that to tell us that we touch the cases coming down, but it's also reawakening to the federal government that, man, they have to tighten their seatbelt. Because we must be sincere to ourselves. For the past 2-3 months, we are able to see a little bit, something that, a little bit
reduction,
calm. Yeah, not like before on a daily basis. You just hear static kidnap here, banditry here, but let's give it to them. They try their best because we all knew what is happening in the country. But that does not mean that they should go and sleep or they should rest on their horse. No. We should let them know that we need more. Nigeria needs to be saved. Nigeria needs to be secure, because that is the reason why you are elected as an executive, either at the state level or at the federal level. So majority of what really happened is that I've not really seen enough synergy in terms of security between the federal and the states. That's the truth. There is no strong synergy. I've not, like what happened in Edo is the same thing that happened in Kaduna. So Edo state government now cannot really give us what really happened. If you ask the federal government now, they will start waiting for report, waiting for this. It shows that there is no synergy. We have a federal government property in Edo line. What is happening? How are you securing it? How much are you budgeting as a federal, as a state, to secure this property?
Now, the NRC actually said, that despite, the attack, that operations will not stop in Edo State. That's train operations.
But not just to put fear in the mind of the people, because normally I think they stopped the operation yesterday, and from Itakpa to Warri is still working. It's just only from within that Edo axis that they stopped yesterday, and just not to, they are trying to do that not to put fear in the heart of the people and not to lose their customer. Because we all knew what happened to Kaduna Abuja rain. Now, since they have stopped, since they have come back now, I don't know whether you have privilege to enter the train. Me, I have privilege to enter the train more than 3 times now. I've seen the low turnout. Low patronage. Low patronage. Low, very low. When I say low, come on. I know what I'm saying.
So now, talking of the Edo attack, did it come to you as a surprise? Was it, shocking that this thing, because perhaps, I don't know, perhaps a lot of people will not associate such kind of things happening in a place like Edo, because maybe we have not had.
The reality of it is that you cannot rule out these people, these bandits, and we have banditry in our territory, we have terrorism in our territory. They can operate anywhere. That's the truth. Like someone was telling me the other day that there are some information they gather in Lagos State about this terrorism and other stuff, planning to, but it's because Lagos State government are spending a lot of money to make sure that before those things rise up, there are some information they gather on the ground. They will not put it out to public. So if they can go as far as, Ondo to Lagos, so I'm not surprised, but the issue there is that when we have Kaduna attacks, what's supposed to come to the mind of our leader is that how can we secure all our facilities in that train? Because, we all knew how this train came. We know that we borrow money and we are still paying the money back. And we have a stipulated time to pay those money back. So I think they need to provide more security to all these things, because who knows the next place.
Okay. Now, can you share your thoughts on this particular report on page 14 of Daily Trust that talks about, presidential candidates of major parties, talking about Tinubu, Atiku, and Obi's campaign, saying it's based on irrelevant issues?
I think it's from some expert analysts that they have listened to their campaign messages. And I think it's time to tell those that want to lead us in the next few months that they should try and tell us and face the issues. Tell us, what are you coming to do? This is our problem. We all know the problem. That's the truth. We all know the problem. Give us solution. On unemployment rate, we have issue of borrowing. We have debt about 2 or 3 trillion debt that we need to face, or any government that is coming in to face. We have a lot of poor people among us. So what are you bringing on board? What are you doing differently from this government that people can see that not insult, not abusing one another? So we are all Nigerians, no matter any party affiliations. So we are all Nigerian first. So our concern should be, what are we bringing on the table? It should be on issues, not on rhetorics.
Now, lastly, on the front page of Daily Trust, there is a story saying Zenith Bank and GT suspend transactions on Naira ATM cards abroad. International transactions on these cards. What do you think of this? Because it seems like every time there is a serious problem like this, the CBN just begin deploying so many desperate measures to curtail or to save the Naira. Is this something?
No, the issue there is that we are in election period, and there are a lot of information out there. And that is why you can see all manner of different policy coming from the CBN, just to curtail how our politicians mop up the money from the economy. Because the reason why we have a lot of issue on our forex is that we got information that a lot of billions of naira were mop up somewhere. So they were asking, where are those money? We release also amount of money, also time. Where are those money in the circulation? So before you know it, they discovered that it was stored somewhere for the purpose of the election. So that is why they came up with this idea of, let's change the naira. They redesigned the naira. Maybe you will not bring the one you hide in your house. So when you bring that one in, they brought the policy of daily limit. So when you bring it in, there is a certain amount of money you can withdraw from it.
But even
so
the new notes,
just trust,
new notes are not as available as.
But you can. In one of the newspapers said that any moment from now, they instructed the bank to put the new note in all the ATM machines. So let's trust them for that. I believe they know what they are doing. So
but you know, the
ATMs.
The ATMs, according to the initial CBN circular, I think that's what is still subsisting. They are only going to be dispensing 200 naira notes. So how will that be adequate if we are only dispensing 200? Where will be the 1,500 naira?
I think they will start. I think they will. They know what they are doing. They will need to start with 200 naira notes, in the sense that there should be more form of a change outside. Because if they start with a bigger note, we'll be having a problem of change. So I believe they will do that for some time. They can do that for a week, and later 500 for a week, another 1,000 for a week. I think they should apply those wisdom. They should not just be one-sided, because we should understand our situation as far as this country is concerned.
But back to this issue of ban on international transaction on ATM. This is not like withdrawal of money and stashing it, but people may be buying things on Amazon
online,
or AliExpress or some things like that, online and all that, or traveling. If you travel for holidays or for anything, you can't make use of your card. Is that really?
No, that thing also happened before. I could remember there was a time outside the country I tried to use my card. I found out that I could not use it. I remember during the former President Jonathan regime, it happened as well. It's not a new thing. I've been victim of it. I have to look for a way. I did not even go with cash. Got to arrival and discovered that I could not use my card, which is unfortunate. But no matter how it is, I think anything that have to do with security and economic policy, there are some information on the ground that we are not privileged to hear. So, and I believe that they should work towards it. It's only 2 banks. So we don't know why the 2 banks choose. What I heard about 2 days before is that they have a limit. They reduce their limit of amount of money you can withdraw online or on international basis. But I don't know why they now shut it up.
Exactly.
It was like a limit before. They reduced it before, but I don't know why they now shut it off totally. So I believe that we need to talk to them and see.
And this is also considering a lot of, small businesses or medium business enterprises.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Online, they depend on it. Some people just buy something, $10, $5, $20, and I believe they should try and look into it. So actually, it will only affect their own banks. That's the truth. That is the reason why I'm not too bothered, because if it's affect them, I can easily go to another bank and open and put my money to the other banks and use their card.
Okay, now let's look at a story on the front page of the Punch newspaper saying, Japa, more youth sell assets, seek fortunes abroad. You know, this phenomenon, it started like a joke and is like really serious. Don't you think it's potent a problem for this country in which skilled young people are living in drops?
Yeah, it's a real problem for us, and I believe that the federal government need to do something, or whosoever that is coming to power by May 29 need to do something drastically to arrest this issue, because I will not deceive you, this can be going like this for the next 1 year if care is not taken. And for to not train, because all the hospitals now, I think they are also complaining, for them to train new people to become an expert in some area, it will take them like 5-7 years. So I believe everybody is just trying to look for a better life for themselves. And I believe Nigerians government need to do more in terms of salary, in terms of security, in terms of condition of living. Are you getting it? It's very important.
All right, this story beside the masthead on Punch newspaper, talking about the air raids and how the air chief says he regrets civilian casualties and orders probe. Now, this is actually becoming one too many. Is a probe enough? What can be done in the future to prevent civilian casualties during air raids?
The probe, definitely there must be a probe. That one is 100% sure. You must probe into a situation before you can know the way out and what to do, and there must be recommendations after probe. So I believe they will submit recommendations and they will see what to do about it, because we can't continue losing our citizens. That's just a situation. We can't continue losing them. So there will be a recommendation from the probe panel, and I believe those recommendations will be duly followed. Because the challenge we have in this country is not about setting up a committee or a probe panel. The challenge we have is, are they following up all the recommendations? That's just the issue.
Okay, now let's have a look at this issue of tariff, electricity tariff, increase. We have had it in our news bulletin earlier and also on the front page of some newspapers, and they are talking about how the tariff suddenly went up and then no formal announcement, nobody is saying anything. What's your take on that?
Yeah, from what I get, there is no any law that mandate them to inform any general public on the increase of tariff. That's number one. I believe they are not indicted in any way or any form that they increase their tariff. That's number one. Number two, the only major area about electricity is that give everybody a prepaid meter. Stop giving estimated billings. Give everybody a prepaid, every household, every apartment. Give them for free. That is where I have a challenge. When you have your prepaid meter, if it's 1,000 is enough for you to use in a month, you pay your 1,000. If it's 2,000 is enough for you to use in a month, you pay your 2,000. If you are not in your house, you know that you have your electricity, you manage what you have. You're able to plan according to your pocket. But to not say that why did they increase, they don't inform us, they are not in any way indicted. It's their right to do so, and they have the reason why they do so. And we must be sincere to ourselves. As long as I'm also at the part of the masses, there is inflation across the world. That's the truth. There is inflation across the world. So if you want the organization to even sustain, you must look at something. But the major where I have a problem is estimated billing. Give them prepaid, everybody, for free. Not like you tell people to come and pay money to buy meter. For what?
Now, talking of inflation across the world and general difficulty, I wanted to ask you, when you earlier spoke about the the issue of young people leaving this country in search of greener pastures. Is that greener pasture really out there as people think? Is that because considering the hardship that almost every country is facing right now?
But you cannot tell an average Nigerian now that there is not any other different out there. They won't even listen to you and they will not even believe you. So what I always tell people is that you are free to choose. Go there, witness it, see it how it goes. You will be able to tell me the story after 2 years. So, like me, I have experience. I've lived in abroad, I've schooled in abroad. I've seen it. I know what is happening. I know it. So I can't discourage anybody, and I can only just put the facts and figures.
So what are the facts now? Do you think
the fact there is that you get there, you have to look for a job for yourself, and the job you look for yourself, you will need to pay bills. It's not like Nigeria here. You pay money monthly there. You pay your house rent every month. You pay your electricity as you pay as you go. You pay your gas bill. You pay your internet bill. So by the time, no matter any amount, I always tell people, no matter any amount you receive in abroad, 80% of it is going for bill. That's the truth. I challenge anybody to tell me I'm lying. Anywhere in the world, either America, either in UK, either in Canada, either in anywhere. Because the country is structured, like I always tell people, the country is structured in a way that the more you collect, the more you take it back to the system. That's how it is. And the way the houses, the buildings, and the community and the city are structured is not the same amount of money you pay in a city. For instance, maybe like South Africa and in Johannesburg, it's not the same amount of money you pay in Johannesburg. You go and pay outside Johannesburg. So if you are working in Johannesburg, your salary will be high, but your rent too has to be high. So they have the same thing in America. So they have a way, I don't have enough time to analyze all these things. They have a way of mopping up the money from you again, take it back to the system. So you get the money, good. You just hear the salary. Oh, my salary is so. You don't know how much I earn here. In a day, I see 1 million. If I translate it to Nigerian currency, oh, wow, great. But how's the person, how much are you paying per month for your rent? He will tell you I'm paying nothing less than 2 million per month. Okay, Nigeria equivalent, good. That's per month.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, it was...
So it's an interesting thing. So I always look forward to tell the young people, say, well, just give it a try, but after 2 years, you will tell me what you realize.
All right, well, thank you so much, Dr. Lanre Oluwaniyi, for such an interesting segment. Thank you so much for reviewing some of these stories with us on Daybreak this morning. Yes, that was Dr. Lanre Oluwaniyi, a public affairs analyst. And with that, we've come to the end of this hour, when we'll actually be back. The show continues and we'll come back at the top of the hour.
But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Good morning, Nigeria. It is Daybreak, and this is Trust Television coming to you from the studio of Trust TV here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. And today is Monday, the 9th of January 2022. And with me in the studio is my co-uncle
Dashan Husseina Usman. It's indeed, a beautiful day. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the highlights at this particular hour.
Edo abduction, NRC shuts train station indefinitely.
On 2022 Hajj, CSOs back Ganduje, seek probe of NACON over finances contracts.
Electricity tariff hike setup calls for reversal.
Now the details of the stories. The Nigerian Railway Corporation on Sunday announced the closure of Ekehen station in Edo State till further notice. The corporation said the decision became necessary following rising security challenges. Gunmen abducted many passengers from a train station in Igwebeng local government area of Edo State. The victims were waiting to board a train to Warri in Delta State when their attackers struck. The incident came barely 1 year after the March 28 attack by bandits on the Abuja-Kaduna train last year, leading to the death of about 14 passengers while 65 others were abducted. The NRC statement said the Ekehen station has been temporarily closed due to security issues till further notice.
Meanwhile, a coalition of civil society organizations have backed the call by the Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje urging the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, and the EFCC, and as well as the National Assembly to investigate the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria over 2022 Hajj operation finances and contracts. Governor Ganduje made the call in Kano while receiving the 2022 Hajj operations report from the management of Kano Pilgrims Welfare Board, led by the chairman of the board, Professor Abdullahi Pakistan, and executive secretary of the board, Abba Dambata. In a statement by the Movement for Greater Nigeria and Good Governance, a coalition of anti-graft organizations signed by its advocacy director Tokumbo Lasisi and communications lead Batul Sahib, at the weekend said the probe is expedient ahead of 2023 Hajj exercise. The CSOs, however, expressed concern that weeks after Kano governor's clarion call for the probe of the Hajj agency, the National Assembly is yet to make any move to probe the commission.
Away from that story, Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP wants President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately reverse what it described as unlawful and unjust and unreasonable increase in electricity tariff. In a statement on Sunday, SERAP's Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare wants Buhari to ensure the investigation of the spending of public funds as investments and bailouts by successive governments to electricity distribution companies and generating companies since 2005 and prosecution of cases of corruption and mismanagement. Following reported approval by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, electricity tariffs were increased across discos in the country in December last year. Several prepaid customers have reportedly confirmed the increase. Both the Minister of Power and the NERC have refused to confirm or deny the increase.
Meanwhile, going on more packages this morning, amid the dwindling economy and high rate of employment that has become the major contributing factor to insecurity in the country, the Adamawa state government says it has lifted over 20,000 youth and women out of poverty. The head of Poverty Alleviation and Health Creation Agency and Wealth Creation Agency in the state, Aishatu Bello Bawa, disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Yola. Salis Lon now reports.
Aishatu Bello Bawa noted that the agency's interventions are in the areas of training for starters, giving technical support to business owners and entrepreneurs, as well as dishing out social welfare packages to those in dire need.
We thank God for the life of Right Honorable Ahmadu Umar Fintri. It's not an over-exaggeration. We have approval and releases over 4.4 billion naira from 2019 to date on empowerment issues. And also this year, in the budget of 2023, we have 2.445 billion has been approved for empowerment. So we consider youths, women and vulnerable groups.
Bawa said the agency's skills accusation centers will give priority to the 2,700 students that were already receiving various skills at the centers, adding that opportunities will thereafter be open to fresh beneficiaries in order to reduce poverty in the state.
In 2023, we intend to redouble our efforts to ensure that we have value for the little resources. Despite the financial fragility of the state, we ensure to double our efforts to see how we can make youths and women to have viable trades, that the vulnerable group that cannot attain trade, we can see how we can have social support services for them.
Stakeholders say the opening of the skills accusation centers, which were long neglected across the state, will boost the state government drive toward the eradication of poverty and creation of wealth in the state. From Yola, Salis Lawan, Trust TV News.
Yam farmers in Niger State have lamented the fall in the price of yams since the beginning of this harvest season. Now, our reporter in the state says farmers are attributing the fall to insecurity and other challenges. The report.
Shiroro, Paikoro, and Munya local government areas are among the major yam producers in the state. A check at yam markets in Kuta, Mutunde, and Paiko in above local government areas shows significant fall in the price of yam. Farmers say the current price is not commensurate with the prices they bought inputs such as fertilizer and chemicals during the planting season. According to them, insecurity is the major cause of the fall in the price of yams, as traders who normally come from Lagos and other parts of the country have stopped due to persistent abduction by bandits. Honestly speaking, the price of yam has come down seriously. Before, we are selling this yam at the cost of 110,000 naira, but it is now 55,000 naira.
Bakin da suke zuwa daga wani gari su zo garinmu su sayi kayan gonanmu ba sa zuwa.
Traders that used to come from other places to buy our farm produce are no longer coming because of insecurity in Shiro local government.
A Niger State a Shiroro za ma bar mu muna kwana lafiya da irin wayannan abubuwan nan.
If we will be allowed to stay peacefully in our villages, even government doesn't help us, we will fend for ourselves. Traders and truck drivers say they are also affected. They call on the government to intensify efforts in the fight against banditry that has ravaged many farming communities in the state. The price of yam is not stable. If there are buyers, the price goes up. And if buyers are not on ground, the price goes down. Buyers no longer coming like before. Sometimes we are in the market and bandits will be coming. Everybody will have to abandon his goods and run, causing us losses.
Kuma asara ta shiga. To shine kake ganin nan Shiroro da Miya ba wani mai ɗauko dukiyar shi ya shigo saboda wannan gudun wa'annan barayi da ake.
Da muna zaman lafiya za ka loda mota 10, 20 amma yanzu mota 2 da kyar za a loda.
When there was peace, we used to load 10 trucks or 20 trucks of yam in a market day, but you hardly load 2 now. It is affecting us because unless traders come to buy, we will not have anything to load.
Suna ganin haka saboda barayin nan mutum zai zo da kuɗinsa a ɗauke shi a rike kuɗinsa a ya nemi kansa da kyar ya rasa, shine yasa suka yi deciding gwanda su gudu wani waje. Yanzu dai mu sun ban mu ga kaya ba mu da masaya saboda wannan harkar barayi.
Niger State is one of the major yam producing states in Nigeria, but attacks on farming communities and abduction of traders have crippled the production of the commodity in the state. Abubakar Akote, Trust TV News, Mina.
Prospective voters in Rigasa ward in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State lament slow pace of distribution of permanent voter card at ward level. While monitoring the process in Kaduna Metropolis during the weekend, the residents also entertain fear that the exercise may elapse without many collecting their PVCs due to last-minute turnout of would-be voters. The report.
The distribution of PVC is ongoing at what level across Kaduna State, with people trooping to the collection center to get their PVC. At the collection center at Tudunwada in Kaduna South local government area, residents come to collect their PVC ahead of January 22nd deadline.
The situation is very hot. People are plenty. Some people have not yet gotten their cards. But most of the people coming are getting their cards, alhamdulillah.
Going by the number we have distributed yesterday, compared to what we are distributing at the local government level, there's a difference. Even I can say it double our turnout. Like yesterday, we have distributed over 1,200 plus, unlike when we are distributing it at the local government office.
At the Rigasa ward in Igabi local government areas, people turn out for their PVC.
People are just getting to know about the exercise. But from today, inshallah, we expect the large turnout of course, will be registrants to collect their PVCs in the centers that I have mentioned.
Some of the mistakes in the voters' cards are maybe the pictures, and maybe that is from our people that captured the person, the owner of the card. That is the reason why, I think that's the reason why you will find out that the picture is not maybe half of his body, half of his face, the other face is not there.
Rigasa ward has more than 150 polling units with tenders set aside by INEC for the distribution of the PVC. Some are entertaining fear that the time may elapse, with many not able to collect their PVCs due to slow pace of the exercise.
Sincerely speaking, I expected an easier strategy of distribution of this PVC in such a way that people will get their PVC in an easier way than the arrangement already made. So I'm suggesting of an easier way of distribution of the PVC by taking the PVC to village heads, that is Meanguas, so that people will easily get their PVC.
I am appealing to INEC to decentralize the distribution of the PVC to polling units so that people can get their PVC within the stipulated 10 days. I came here early in the morning, but up to now, I didn't collect my PVC because the arrangement of collecting the card here is tedious. The exercise will last for 10 days at ward level. Bella Musa, Trust TV News Kaduna.
Thank you, Bello, for that report. Now, some residents of Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, have decried the slow pace of distribution of PVCs at INEC collection centers in the metropolis. Trust TV's Beatrice Kuruti, who visited some PVC collection centers, reports that the cards are unavailable for collection, while some centers are understaffed. The report.
There's a rush here for the collection of PVCs in one of the many INEC voters' cards collection centers in Maiduguri. The weekend exercise in some of these centers witnessed a low turnout, while some who came to claim theirs were unable to collect them and fear that they may be disenfranchised in the coming elections. We came to collect our PVC and they told us to return after a week, and it's the second time we have been given this excuse. They are supposed to have produced all the PVCs so that everyone will get his or her own, because when the collection closes now, many people will not get theirs.
Well, so far here it is not so congested, but I don't know about other centers. But I saw the previous election to be much more tense than this one. We are much relaxed here, and there's no more tension to be scared of coming out to vote. I think it's going to be okay here if all things continue the way we are seeing now.
Most of the people that we did together with them, and most of the people that even faced them, their own have already come out then. And we even asked them, but up to now still, no response. Instead of us, they should respond in a polite way. So most of them, they used to be quarreling and be responding so harsh for us. Instead of them, because this is our right, and we're the citizen of Nigeria here. We have the right to vote and everything then. But up to now, we haven't seen any single of that.
I come in early in the morning, 11. Nobody opened this place. That's why after praying, I came here again and collected.
They also feel that the deadline for the collection of the PVCs should be extended.
They're supposed to be about 5 or 6. This is about 60-something units in the same place. Thousands of people may come. Only 2 people are checking this thing. This is not fair. There is enough funds that was given to INEC. I believe they can recruit more people to make life easy.
How many persons is he going to start? It's only one person that was working inside that place. But what about the rest? That's those challenges. Can you be able to give one person, even that person is sometimes the work that he was doing, he can be able to be tired ahead of it. But at least he have need an assistant. But please, we need our PVC. Let them give us 120 vote.
I think if people are not able to access it, I would advise that the extension should be granted for the masses to have access to it, since it is a very important.
So far, more than 25,753 cards have been collected out of the 132,750 new PVCs received on Friday, with the collection of the PVCs billed to last for 2 weeks. Some residents who couldn't get theirs are hoping that INEC will extend its collection deadline.
With this report on PVC collection in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, we'll take, we'll go on a short break. When we come back, the show will continue. Do stay with us.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
That's great. You can see.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at more stories. Ahead of the President Muhammadu Buhari's visit to Yola for the APC campaign rally, the Adamawa State Police Command has deployed additional manpower to ensure a hitch-free rally. Now the command has also ordered officers to display high level of professionalism and respect for human rights. Trust TV Silas Lawang visits the Muhammadu Buhari Square venue of campaign rally to see the level of preparedness for the event. Let's take a look.
This is the venue of the All Progressive Congress campaign rally.
which is scheduled to take place on Monday. Activities here are in earnest. Chieftains of the party are busy putting things in place to host the president. Adamawa State Assistant Commissioner Police in charge of operation, Shehu Umar Didango, enjoined residents to be law-abiding, as the command is ready to deal with anyone whose intention was to breach law and order.
We have gotten a very good cooperation from members of the public through enlightenment, through our PPRO, who informed the people of the coming of the president. They should remain calm and ensure they equally be peaceful. We were able to reach all traditional rulers, religious leaders, youth leaders, political party members, that they should remain peaceful as well as they should remain law-abiding citizens.
The preparation is on top gear. I think she's not someone that is just does her thing anyhow. She's a very serious-minded person, and anything she does, she will do it to the best of her ability. So she's ready for this flag off for campaign rally.
We thought, as a party, we deserve every right to be accorded the state facility of Ribadu Square to host the event. But unfortunately, approval was granted for the presidential rally that was billed to hold on the 18th. But when the governorship aspirant approached the same Adamawa state government for the venue, they denied granting the venue for the event to hold on the 9th.
People will support her to make the event to be successful, because they are all needing to see Mr. President General Muhammadu Buhari, and they appreciate on the Adamawa State people have been happy to hear that a president himself will come and support our distinguished Senator Gamna Tubi Aisha Tubinani.
APC chieftains in the state urged their team and supporters, party loyalists, to be law-abiding, as campaign rally will not be successful without peace. Vehicle movement will be restricted, especially those coming from Sangere Numan to Yola. Motorists in Yola are advised to take alternative roads. From Yola, Silas Lawan, Trust TV News.
Yeah, it's the campaign season, and politicians are up and doing, moving from one place to another. With this, we go on another short break, and when we come back, we'll go on to discussion segment of the program. Do stay with us.
All right, welcome back. Let's take a look at what we'll be discussing right about now. A retrospective look at the power sector in 2022 holds a bleak hope. It has been a circle of stunted growth and shamble of failure from the transmission, generation and distribution subsectors. Now, like Nigeria's economy, the power sector has refused to progress due to lack of investment and managerial competence. Nigeria needs an estimated 25,000 megawatts to 40,000 megawatts capacity to serve its over 200 million population. Now, still, currently, the installed generating power capacity is about 12,522 megawatts, and transmission and distribution infrastructure can only deliver an average of 4,000 megawatts to businesses and homes. Now, let's take a look at how the sector fared in 2022, as we have in the studio engineer Michael Oluwagbemi, co-founder and executive partner of Lofty Inc. Allied Partners Limited, and he is also a board member of Rural Electrification Agency representing the Southwest Zone. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Happy
well,
New Year.
good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Yeah, well, so now you've listened to this introduction.
Yes.
Will you agree, especially looking at the 2022, happenings in the power sector, the many collapses and all that. There were a time, of course, that Nigerians were celebrating some improvement and all that, but it's still been very bumpy one. What's your own assessment of the power sector in the last 1 year?
Yeah, well, good morning again to your guest and Happy New Year. It's nice to be back to discuss the situation in our sector. I call it our sector as a native in the sector myself, an active player. I think the power sector had epileptic results in terms of outcomes. But I also think there were important work that was being done that it will take time for you to see the outcome, the necessary outcome. It is in fairness to the nature of the sector. I always say that anything you're seeing in the power sector, even in the economy today, is something that the seeds have been planted like 20 years before. So the important work that is being done, by stakeholders, knowing the issues around transmission you had mentioned, around distribution, the FGM power, and the Siemens project is ongoing. But it's unlikely you're going to see the results in that year. In terms of generation, important power plants were built, commissioned, including the Gurara Dam, as well as several solar projects across the country. And some NIPP were also brought back on board. But again, it will take time for you to feel the impact of these investments because it's a big sector and a big sheep or a big elephant. If you turn it around, you might not feel it in the immediate, but in the long term, you begin to benefit. What we cannot do is we cannot go back to the bad policies that brought us to where we are. There were bad policies that the nation adopted as its raison d'etre in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, especially the 70s and the 80s.
What are these bad policies?
Well, one of it is the obvious one. If you're a Nigerian, you lived in this country in the 70s, 80s, you know that you hardly saw a NEPA bill. It hardly came to you. You just used power. And so our fathers and grandfathers, they used up the power that we are now suffering. That's what it is. Because when you don't pay for power over a long period of time, then you don't get the investments to build additional capacity. And then your population overtake that capacity, and then you are trying to catch up. So what we are doing now is that we're playing catch up. We're playing catch up because of the bad practices and policies in the power sector in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We did not meter, we did not collect. Even the tariff was not correct. We're paying like 10% of the market cost in the 70s, 80s, 90s, even to the 2000s. Up until last year, Nigerians were not paying cost-reflective tariff. So if you over a long period of time of underinvestment and under building in terms of capacity, then we are suffering the consequences now. So what we need to do is that we need to do the right things and stick to it, and hopefully continue to do the investment that will then get us back to normal. Yeah.
All right, now, for a while now, we've been hearing, stakeholders say it will take time, it will take time. In time, things will get better. But, it doesn't seem to happen. Like things don't actually seem to get better in the power sector. And some analysts actually say that they believe that is the opaque manner of privatization of assets that is a major problem. Do you agree?
Everything is a major problem, right? I mean, it's very relative, depending on how you're looking at it. Yes, the privatization could have been done in a better way to get better results. Even the current management, you can still argue it can be optimized so that the results can appear faster, right? I mean, there's never a perfect human system, and I always say that. But the reality is that it's not just one, just like an accident that is about to happen. It's not just one thing that the driver does that causes the accident. It's a series of actions, right, that's happen to lead to a chain of events that often lead to an accident. And that's what we are. As far as the power sector is concerned, we're in an accident scene. And that's why it's chaotic, it's epileptic, and the casualties here is the Nigerian people and the Nigerian economy. I mean, people forget that various areas of the economy, for example, the textile industry, disappeared, lost 2 million jobs because the power industry collapsed from the 80s. In 1981, Nigerian textile industry employed 2 million people. Today, it employs less than 50,000. And everything in that industry can be directly correlated to the power sector. So you have direct impact of these issues that we are confronting. But the reality is that we must just know that there's a lot of things that we did that was wrong. But we must fix it one at a time. We cannot shut down the sector, of course. We need to continue to try to, to ameliorate the situation on the margins, but we cannot retrogress. And so when I hear issues around, should Nigerian pay cost-reflective tariff? I know the tariff issue now is a big deal, and everybody's making noise about it. But if you don't pay your tariff, then you can't invest. I mean, it's just it's very basic. It's direct. You must pay your tariff.
But over the years, government has been spending billions, pumping actually trillions of naira, even in subsidy. For example, yesterday there was a statement from a CSO asking that it be propped because we've subsidized the power sector for too much. Why is the impact of this subsidy? Because people will argue that there is no result.
Yeah, so there's what we call good and bad subsidy. Unfortunately, again, in terms of bad policy, we've always undertook the kind of bad subsidy. There's consumption subsidy, there's production subsidy. You do not want to subsidize consumption. You want to subsidize production. Because when you subsidize production, you produce a whole lot more, and the laws of market forces, demand and supply, will drive down price. But if you subsidize consumption, you create a lot of room for corruption. So if people will claim they've consumed a lot, just the same way in our petroleum, gasoline area, where we have subsidized consumption, what we've done over the years is that we've done the wrong subsidy in order to deliver lower prices than the market is actually telling us to charge. So what we've done over the years, when you talk about this subsidy, is that we've done consumption subsidy. And now the government is saying, no, we need to move towards production subsidy. We should subsidize people that are producing power. For example, in the Rural Electrification Agency, with the board on which I sit, we are subsidizing generation of power in rural areas. That is fine, because again, people will go build there, and then they will produce more power for the rural areas, and then reduce this urban-rural drift, which is largely rural-urban drift, which is largely the cause of the issues around security that we're dealing with in Nigeria today. In 1984, when the president was in power, the first time around, Nigeria was a 10% urban country, 90% rural. Today, Nigeria is a 52% urban country and 48% rural. Massive shift of population from the rural areas to the urban areas, and what you get is crime. So if you don't do what is necessary to keep that population in the rural areas, give them power, ensure that they can be able to live a good life also in the rural area, we are running to the cities by producing the power you need there, then you're going to have other problems. So the government can take a position of subsidizing production of power in the rural areas. That is the right subsidy. But if the government now goes to the rural area and says, no, I'm going to give you, instead of you to pay 50 naira per kilowatt hour, you can pay 10 naira per kilowatt hour. I will send a bulk check to Mr. A, who is my friend, who I've told to produce power for you. Guess what? Mr. A will claim he produced 100 kilowatt per hour, but he's only delivered 10 kilowatt to you. And the 90 kilowatt per hour will be lost to what? Corruption. So that's the reason why you don't subsidize consumption. You subsidize production. Yeah.
All right, now you talked about crime, and I remember reading somewhere that the AEDC,
yes,
lamented the surge in vandalization of its electrical assets and installations.
Correct.
Now, what is actually being done about the level of surveillance and security of all electrical infrastructure? Because it seems they've left it in the hands of vigilantes to protect.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. It's not just the power sector that is going through this. The infrastructure sector, I would say, is experiencing this sad situation where the country is borrowing to build up its infrastructure stock. But Nigerians themselves, we are now destroying the same infrastructure that our grandchildren will pay for. And it's a combination, of course, people will say it's a combination of there's hunger in the land and all of that stuff. But I don't buy into that theory. We are not the poorest country in the world. And then by far, we're not even close. We're the biggest economy in Africa. And I just think it has to do with, first, we have to look inside ourselves as Nigerians, and there needs to be a lot of sensitization around the issue. Patriotism is very important. If you understand that public infrastructure is joint infrastructure, and if you destroy it, then you will pay for it directly or indirectly, either in terms of loss of economic activity or in the future, increase in taxes. So there needs to be some work done in the area of sensitizing Nigerians around it. For example, I see Nigerians, even roads, you see communities just go and build a speed breaker on a federal highway. What they've done is they've destroyed the highway. They don't realize it. But they are not sensitized. Maybe they don't have the information to know that when you create a bridge on a road, on an highway, you've created an opportunity for crevices to start opening up on the highway, and you've destroyed the highway. But they don't know. They want to do all that. They want to achieve other goals, which we can achieve in other ways. But they've done it by self-help. So I think sensitization is one thing that can be done very well in terms of letting Nigerians know that at the end of the day, public infrastructure is your property. And if it gets bad, we will tax you more to rebuild it. So do you want to get increased taxes, or do you want to get increased a better infrastructure? The second thing is that there needs to be enforcement. I think that those people who are caught in the act, stealing cable, destroying roads, destroying bridges, some of them go remove the iron and aluminium guards and all those stuff, it should be dealt with thoroughly. I think the punishment currently is too small. Oftentimes I think it's the same thing as larceny or stealing. For public infrastructure, people should be sent to long jail terms from 5 to 15 years. And they should be punished because, again, their act is actually destroying the economy. So it's an act of economic sabotage. So I think there needs to be a public example made of people who are caught in the act, and there needs to be diligent prosecution. And then thirdly, you talk about enforcement. Enforcement, monitoring and surveillance. That's just one part of the work in terms of physical monitoring and surveillance. We can also utilize technology. We need to deploy more cameras on our public infrastructure. But we have to know that this monitoring and surveillance, I have to warn here, cost money. And part of that will go into your tariff. So do you want increased monitoring surveillance so that we can also increase your tariff? So people have to understand that these things are not cost-free activities. But first, for us to even bring down the cost, generally speaking, let's sensitize the people, let's educate them so that there's less criminals. Or even if you want to commit crime, you're not committing crime on the public infrastructure, which is going to cost you down the road, or for which you're going to go to long jail terms. At least you know, if it's a public infrastructure, leave it. Maybe you're going to commit crime on private infrastructure. So education is a very good first step. And I think we are not doing enough of that, to be honest. And I think it's something we can do more of.
Okay, now, I have two questions in one. You spoke earlier about the issue of subsidizing production rather than consumption. And then I put it to you that the issue of production right now, we have this which a lot of people have criticized, or Nigerians have not been able to understand why the junkers, the role of NBET, embed, and how it's buys up bulk generated electricity and then now sort it out with discourse and all that. Sure. That's and then people feel that people have been given money for things that we don't need, especially because our distribution infrastructure is very poor. And then the second leg of the question is then, how do we balance this huge disparity between generated, over 12,000, and then distribution? We're only able to distribute 4,000. And when we're literally paying for 12,000.
Very good questions. I think the two questions you ask, I can use 1 hour to.
So, but I will try.
Do that
in 3 minutes.
Yes, I will try.
Or 2.
But MBET existed, if you understand, is actually going to be sunsetted. MBET exists first as a temporary mechanism for settling in the power distribution market. Is not supposed to be a permanent organization, yes. And the reason is you are going from a system of sole distributorship, PHCN, as a single body, to now a system where you have multiple discos, a single TCN, maybe with MMO and OMO, and of course, multiple GENCOs. The guy that is distributing actually is investing in the molecule, the electrons that you see in your house as electricity, is not the one that is selling to you. So he needs to have assurance. Why should he invest in that electron? Buy gas, pay staff, maintain and expand turbines if he does not understand how the money is going to come back to him. So what the system did, what the law did, was to insert MBET as a temporary mechanism to give him assurance that if you invest in gas, let's remember the guy is buying gas every day, and gas is settled in dollars. It's not settled in naira, even in Nigeria. It's a dollar transaction. So if the guy is buying gas to power his gas plant and turbine, he's paying so much to GE and Siemens to maintain his turbines, he needs to know that his money is going to come back. So MBET is sort of like the guarantee in place for him to be able to get that. Now, to the point that, well, MBET knows, they cannot get the full money back from the discos. Why are they committing to the GENCOs? Well, the first thing I have to say is that generally speaking, what they commit to the GENCO is what we call some kind of, it's not even so much of a guaranteed pricing, is that if you supply, you will get paid. You know, a PPA, a purchase power agreement. There's only very few instances, I think, in the Azura gas situation where we actually committed to a price, a take or pay, that's what they call that. It's a unique arrangement for a new investment, right? Most of the GENCOs as they exist in Nigeria today predated MBET, right? So they are not new investment. So all that was given to them was, okay, if you produce at a certain price, if you produce, we'll pay you for what you have produced. But in the case of a take and pay, it's a little more complicated. It's what you are talking about, where whether you use the power or not, you are still paying the GENCO. And that's to stimulate new investment into the sector. Again, there are different mechanisms that are in place on the MBET side to ensure and to also check the players. And some of it...
Can you quickly address the second part of the question?
Like, the second part, yes. Yes.
So with all this power, then
why are we absolutely? We have to take a deep look at the design of the power. I think I've said it on this program before. I think sometime last year, the last time I came here. There needs to be a rethinking as to whether we need the kind of single grid that we operate today in Nigeria, or whether we should look at a much more segregated grid that is connected to each other. If I were designing the power system of Nigeria today, I would probably not give it the grid that we have today. Why do I say so? Nigeria is a country of over 80 cities that are above population of 100,000. I mean, you have 40 cities that are 250,000 and above. Right? Let's start with that. These 40 cities are responsible for 80% of Nigeria's economic power. Let me step back again. 40 cities in Nigeria have a population of 250,000 and above. Those 40 cities are responsible for 80% of Nigeria's economic output. If I'm to design a power system for Nigeria, I will focus it on those 40 cities. And then I will let the other surrounding rural areas and all that, I will then use something like an REA mechanism to power them, generate, distribute, and transmit to them. I won't do an overall national grid that we have today, which is very, very, quite difficult to manage. Because once one leg, say in Calabar, breaks, then it affects the entire system and the entire system collapses. So we need to look at that. To me, I think that's something that is so fundamental in our thinking as we go forward. If we want to fix the system that we have today and ensure the 12,000 megawatts we have installed capacity, we can distribute it, we must look at the potential for us to maybe break the current grid into smaller chunks and then connect them, or focus the grid, or even rethink the way we privatize in the first place. The way the GENCOs, the TCN and the DISCOs are broken up and it's fragmented, is that the right way? Is it not better for us to have Gencos associated directly with Discos? Have EGMI supply Lagos directly. Lagos, EGMI is about 1,000 megawatts. Why is, if Lagos gets 1,000 megawatts, today it gets about 500.
Okay,
if Lagos gets 1,000 megawatts, Lagos will be fine.
Is the problem about the type of grid, or, you know, because reports actually say that the grid that we have right now is outdated and we might need to invest on a new grid?
Well, I wouldn't say there's no grid that you can just say is outdated. All right, you've not invested in the grid. That's the answer. I mean, you've not, over the years, you've not done the SCADA system, you've not done the monitoring system, you've not invested in the kind of high voltage interconnection line that you need to put into that kind of grid. You've not done your backup reserve power, spinning power. There's so many things you can do with Nigeria's grid today that will make it updated, but it requires money, right? So the question to you is that should you spend all that money to maintain a massive single grid, or you are better off breaking it into chunks so that you don't require that much level of money again? So for those of us who are experts in the sector, we're saying, no, I don't think we should spend that much money to maintain. What is the benefit of powering areas of the country that only contribute 20% to the economy? I should focus on the 40%, the 40 cities that gives me 80% of the economic power. That's what I should do. It's an economic, again, power is not a political commodity. It's an economic commodity.
But it's a social service, isn't it?
No, it's not. Power is not a social service. And again, this is the mistake. That was the thinking behind our current design in 1960, that power is a social service. It's not. If it's a social service, then we should provide for it the way we provide for healthcare and education. We should provide free power. We don't provide free power. Nobody can sustain free power in the world. Power is an economic service. So we should be focused on these 40 cities. And the interesting thing about the 40 cities in Nigeria is that they are distributed all around Nigeria. Lafia is one of them. So it's not as if it's one part of Nigeria that has the 40 cities. The 40 cities are all across Nigeria. But what we are saying is that instead of taking power all the way from EGMI, put it in the national grid, lose 40% of it because you have line losses, then EGMI sends it to Osogbo, Osogbo now sends it back to Lagos. How does that make sense? Something that is already scarce. You don't put it in the national grid and waste it again. What you do is you send it from EGMI as 1,000 megawatts, send it straight into Lagos. Maybe it loses 50 megawatts, it gets to Lagos as 950, and Lagos gets the power it needs. It's just common sense.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know, Usaina has another question for you, but it's been quite a enlightening session with you. And of course, as you said, it will take hours to really dissect this power issue. Thank you very much, Engineer Michael Oluwabemi, co-founder and executive partner at Loft Inc., Allied Partners Limited, and also a board member of the Rural Electrification Agency, for joining us this morning. We hope to have you another time to discuss some more on this topic.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And Happy New Year.
So with this, we come to the end of Daybreak on Trust TV this morning. Do join us tomorrow for another edition of the program. But of course, you can always, you can always look at our social media platforms for more on our programs. We are on, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all other social media platforms. See you tomorrow.
I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Have a wonderful week.